Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, bonjour, ciao, namaste, jumbo. Hello and welcome. My name is Jedley, and this is Reading with Your Kids, coming to you with love from the historic neighborhood of Reedville, tucked away into the southwest corner of beautiful Boston, Massachusetts. Our mission here is all about connection, connecting kids with books, families with each other, and communities through the power of story. In every episode of Reading with Your Kids, you will meet authors and creators whose work lights up kids' lives. You can support this mission by spreading the word, share the show with your friends, give us a shout out at school, and let kids know that they can find us on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Good Pods, CastBox, Audible. Pretty much wherever you find your favorite shows, you can find Reading with Your Kids. Two great guests today. First up, Rae Marsh is here to celebrate. Her chapter book is called Love Maggie. And later in the show, we'll be meeting Phil Hall. His picture book is called The Day the Children Saved the World. The Day Time Began. Beautiful new picture book by Mary Ellen Roberson. Available at maryellenroberson.com.
In the dawn of the world, when colors were born, a gentle voice whispered, let there be morn. From mountains to rivers and skies up so blue, the daytime began. Oh, what a beautiful view. With every beat of the heart, in the breeze of the land, nature was singing as life took a stand. Oh, the wonders, the colors, the creatures so bright, in the pages of a story that brings pure delight. With every turn of the leaves, can you feel the cheer? The daytime began, let's celebrate here.
Have you outgrown your health insurance plan or just not happy with what you're paying for? The number one reason we all change our health insurance is price. Are you paying too much for your health insurance? Would you like to have better coverage at a better rate or at little or no cost to you? Your life needs are always changing, but have you done anything to improve your health insurance for you and your family? Health insurance laws and coverage are always changing and getting better. It's impossible to do all the research yourself, but now it's all done for you for free. So regardless of your age or medical condition, take a few minutes right now and find out if you can save money or even qualify for zero-cost health insurance in your state. Call now.
Paid for by cheaper health insurance. 800-932-1656. 800-932-1656. 800-932-1656. That's 800-932-1656.
Before we invite our guest into the studio, I would love to invite you to visit a very special website. It's clownswithoutborders.org. Clownswithoutborders.org. This is a group that I absolutely adore. I am part of Clowns Without Borders, and I had the honor of being part of the 2023 tour of El Salvador. I had so much fun joining with artists from all over the world to bring a smile to people who really needed it and really appreciated it too. And we would love for you to join us as a monthly Joy Maker. Joy Makers, they're a family of people just like you who love to laugh and make other people feel good. So please take a moment and visit clownswithoutborders.org and consider joining me as a Joy Maker. Join us right now from the home of the rat. Well, that's very unkind. I shouldn't say that about Mickey. Orlando, Florida. Our guest is here today to celebrate. Her chapter book is called Love Maggie. Please welcome to the show, Rae Marsh. Hey, Rae, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Delighted to have you on. I hope you didn't mind my little tease about Orlando being the home of the rat.
No, we've heard worse before, so that's fine.
Do you have a preference of parks?
Oh, lately it's been Universal. Epic Universe is opening, just opened, but for Disney parks, I love the Magic Kingdom. We actually just went over the weekend, so it's fun.
All right. Yeah, I think my son, who is a very open Disney adult, is also really liking Universal Studios and the new areas they opened. And he's having a lot of fun over there.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah. So let's have some fun ourselves and talk about Love Maggie. Who is Maggie and why should we love her?
Okay. Well, there's many reasons why you should love Maggie. Basically, the inspiration behind the Love Maggie series is my children used to come home from school, elementary school, and my background is in writing. I have a degree in English. I graduated many, many moons ago, and I became a sales rep. So a couple of years ago, my kids would come home from school, and I would say, you want to read? Because we would always say you should read 10, 15 minutes after school, elementary school. And I had books everywhere, and they just couldn't get into it. They just could not get into any of the books that I had. I said, what do you want to read about? So they told me, they like Taco Tuesdays and things that were going on at school and just, hanging out with friends and stuff like that. Well, with my background as a writer and in English, I was like, you know what? Instead of continuing to buy all of these new books and even old books that I had, it's like, you know what? I'm going to create a series on my own based on my experience through college and writing what I know. So what I did was I took the experiences from my family and turned it into a series. And it's inspired by my daughters. However, Maggie is actually based on my youngest daughter, Lila. Okay. And the book starts out with her in the 3rd grade and all the things that happen in the 3rd grade.
Very cool. Very cool. You mentioned Taco Tuesday. I spent 35 years traveling around to schools throughout the United States, Caribbean, Central America, performing. And every school I went to, the custodians dreaded Taco Tuesday or Thursday or whenever. It was always just a sea. The floor was always covered with all the things tacos. Yeah,
exactly. We actually still have Taco Tuesdays at our house.
Okay.
And they're teenagers now, but we do. Yeah. We have Taco Tuesday and we have Spaghetti Monday. We still have Spaghetti Monday at our house, which is in the book as well.
Spaghetti Monday. That's interesting. Here in Boston, Wednesday was always Spaghetti Day.
Really?
Yeah, there was a big.
That's interesting.
There was a big commercial of a pasta company, Prince Pasta Company, ran an ad campaign, and it was filmed down in Boston's famous Italian neighborhood, the North End, and the mom would be out the window, Anthony, and this is long before cell phones and everything, and she's got Anthony, and you see Anthony run home and go up the stairs and go into the house, and he was so happy because it was Wednesday. It was Prince.
That is so funny. Yeah, we love our days, but we've been doing Spaghetti Mondays and Taco Tuesdays for so long. It's kind of a given, and if somebody wants to change it up, I don't. It's probably not going to happen. So.
Well, there's something to be said for knowing what to expect.
Yes, exactly. There's no surprises, that's for sure. When it comes to food.
Love Maggie is one of many books in the Maggie series. How many books are there?
Yes, well, there are actually 3 books in the chapter book series, and then I just released about a month ago middle grade, which is more of Maggie's in elementary school, and then the journey continues with her when she goes into 5th grade. But as far as the chapter series, it's in the diary format, which kids really, really love.
Absolutely. The first book I remember reading in that kind of diary, there were a couple. One was The Diary of a New York City School Teacher, and the other was The Screwtape Letters.
What was the second one?
the Screw Tape Letters. I think it was a C.S. Lewis.
I like C.S. Lewis, but I've never read that. I used to read, well, I'm trying to think if it was in the diary format, but I loved Junie B. Jones books when I was younger, and that was kind of one of the inspirations because Junie kind of did her own thing, and I kind of had a twist on that with Maggie, even though most of the things in the book are about my family, with kind of a spin. That's what I like to talk to kids about when I visit them at schools, is about writing what they know, because kids are always like, Miss Rae, well, I want to write about fantasy. I want to write about this or that or outer space. And I always ask them, I'm like, why? Well, that would be really cool. And I said, well, why don't you think about it? What's really cool to you right now? Is it a sibling? Is it a pet? Is it, some sort of animal or anything that you're thinking about? Think about it for 30 seconds. And they're like, yeah. I said, can you come up with a couple ideas that you would want to write about? And they're like, yeah. I said, well, then that's not fantasy. That's cool, right? And they're like, yeah. So I said, that's why you can write what you know. And if you're inspired by something that you know and you love, you can really write about it and you can expand on that thought. And that's what kids and even adults, they like to read about. They really like to read things that, come from the heart, and you put your heart and soul into it.
Yeah. Well, I think you're right. And as you're speaking, your energy level, as you're talking about what advice you give to kids, just increased 100-fold. So it's obvious that you love talking to kids about writing. What is it? Why does that excite you so much?
Well, it really is. It's my passion. It's so much fun to, when I go to these schools and I visit children, just like my own kids, when they really weren't into reading and writing and all that kind of stuff. And I would go into schools, and I still do. I just had my last author session last week, and I go into schools, and some of these children, they're just really not into it. They haven't found anything that resonates with them. And when I speak to them and we get on that level of writing what you know, or creating, collaborating, working with one of your friends in school, somebody likes to write. Well, what do you like to write about? Do you like to write about the weather, the mountains, the beach? What do you like to write about? And then they'll tell me. And I'll ask in the session, I'll say, who likes to draw? Who likes to illustrate? And then, of course, I get a ton of kids who love to do comics and graphic novels. And then I say, well, I have an idea. Why don't you pair up? You write something about, the excerpt about what you want to talk about. And then your friend or partner draws and illustrates what you're trying to communicate. And it gives them that task of working together, but in a way where they're having so much fun, they're not considering it working. So then I'll tell them, why don't you do that with 5 or 10 pages? And then it gets them really, really involved. And then they're having so much fun creating together. My sessions are about creating and collaborating. And that's what I talk to them about, writing what you know, because it's really, really exciting. And they're our future. So that I just want them to grasp something that's very exciting to them that they can run with without thinking, you know what, Miss Rae, I want to write about, I love Harry Potter. I love Harry Potter. But when kids ask me, how do you think they write about that? And I said, I don't know, because my mind and my inspiration goes towards my family. And that's what you can do too. And be very descriptive. Let us know as a character, Maggie, when you walk into Maggie's world, she's very relatable. So kids become very excited about it because Maggie talks about the smells of things. She goes to theme park days and she can hear the kids screaming on roller coasters, and the colors of the roller coasters and her friends and the smells of cotton candy. And once you tell kids about that and things that resonate with them at their age and what they really enjoy, they really pick it up. And for me to go in there and speak to them and then leave and have a teacher or have a parent contact me through email and say, you have inspired my son or daughter to do so much. They are innate, they're trying to put together a book club, which I was like, or kids that aren't so inclined to read, they're picking up these books now. And it's just fantastic for me. I absolutely love it. And that's what has me continue to write.
Tell me, when you're doing these school visits, it doesn't sound like the kind of visit I would do where I'd have 500-600 kids watching my educational magic show. It sounds like you do more of a kind of a more intimate workshop. Am I right in thinking that?
Yes, you are absolutely right in thinking that. What I like to do, I love to have around 50 kids in a session. I usually do 3rd and 4th grade, sometimes 5th, depending on, what we're going to discuss. The teachers tell me what they like to discuss as well. If we're more of like in a plot development or character development and so forth, that's more of for 5th grade. And then if we talk about, characters and kind of, more humorous types of things, we go to 3rd and 4th. And they're smaller sessions. I tailor the sessions to the age of the children. I also, I'll take volunteers and I'll talk about the publishing process and so forth. But I like smaller workshops. Now, I have had sessions where there are hundreds and hundreds of kids, and as long as they, as I preface the author talk session and say, I've heard you're excellent students, and we're going to do a lot of hands up and hands down, questions and answers. I said, try not to blurt things out because we won't get through the session. So that's how I kind of preface it before I have larger students, larger group of students, because then they get so excited about certain parts of the presentation when I talk about theme park day and when I read about theme park day, that it kind of goes a little haywire. So yes, I do prefer smaller sessions, but it's like the more the merrier. And I also do younger kids too, which is more of like a reading session, but I don't read as much.
Yeah. Tell me, you mentioned that you have a new middle grade novel out. Was it a big challenge for you going from the chapter book genre to middle grade?
It was, and you wouldn't think it would be. I've read about some authors that were having a little bit of an issue, and I'm like, oh no, I'll be fine. She's getting older. Maggie's getting older, so I wanted things to get older with her and her friends and so forth. So I sent things to my editor. Her name's Marion, and she's fantastic. And I would send things over to my editor, and she would say, oh, Rae, we can't use this wording. It's too young, or we have to take away the ha-has. These kids are older. They're in, 5th, 6th, 7th grade. So you had to modify a little bit. And my personality, even though I'm in my 50s, I'm very energetic. And, I talk to these kids like I'm part of their group. It's a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. So when I try to tone it down a little bit with my personality and take things away, that's how you have to learn how to train your brain in writing to say, okay, now I'm in a different genre, and now we need to be, a little bit older, and now she's in middle school, and she's also in this book, which I just found out yesterday, it's up for an international middle grade award. I just found out yesterday, and I'm very excited about that. But what happens with this book is it is inspired still by family. And it's a lot about self-discovery and self-confidence. And Maggie thinks that she has magic running shoes. And these magic running shoes are making her run faster. And
mm-hmm.
she needs to win this race. She's the only girl who's ever qualified for this race for Coastal Wave Middle School. And she is having doubts and everything like that. So it talks about believing in yourself. And all you have to do is really believe in yourself with the self-confidence and self-discovery through this book. Mm-hmm. She realizes I'm good enough. And that's what kids really need to know at their age, because I've spoken to thousands of kids. They need to know they're good enough. They're fast enough. They're strong enough. They're smart enough. They can do whatever they want to do as long as they put their mind to it. They can accomplish anything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I just love the enthusiasm in your voice. It's clear that you really relish these opportunities to inspire young kids.
Yes, I really, really do. It's fun. It's fantastic for me. The feedback that I get from teachers and parents, it's so worth it. And when I walk into a school and these children see me and they're so excited, and they just, they treat me like I'm a movie star. And I'm like, no, I'm just, I live down the street from you guys. And, if you see me, come up and say hi. If you see me at the grocery store, if I do like local events, and it's just a lot of fun. And I've actually stayed after a couple author sessions where, kids have been like, especially this one young student had asked me, she stayed after class, and she said, Miss Rae, I'm trying to write a book. And I said, well, what do you want to write about? And she said, I need your help. Like, can you help me set an outline? And she was in 5th grade. And I was like, yes, absolutely. And I stayed with her about a half an hour after, and in between my sessions, and we went over some stuff about outlines, and she was so excited to just put pen to paper. And then I said, if you have a friend, or if you want to do your own illustrations, maybe we could do it like this. She's like, oh, that's a great idea. So anytime where I can get a workshop, or anytime I can just have that time with students, it's just incredible, because I feel like if I just help one person, one student, try to follow their dreams and make something happen, whether it's publishing or just writing something down and saving it for later, they're creating and they're thinking, and they're getting they're putting their devices away, and they're just actively doing something that's interesting to them. And I love that.
Awesome. Now you've mastered the chapter book space. You've created a middle grade novel. What other genres are you thinking about? Graphic novels, YA titles, perhaps, maybe picture books?
Well, actually, at this time, I went to Colorado on an author visit about a month ago. And there was a sign on one of the slopes that had said, bear in the area. There's a bear in the area. And then there was another sign that said elk crossing. So my other daughter's name is Morgan, and she's older. So I said, well, she's going to be a senior in high school. And I said, oh my gosh, I have an idea. As I was skiing down the slope, I said, I'm going to do a picture book, and it's going to be called Morgan and the Moose. And it's going to be about a moose that escaped and, lost track of their family and met Morgan on the slopes, and they were working together to find the moose's family. So I'm going to do a picture book. That's in the works. I'm still working on that, but that's how my brain works. And kids have asked me, well, how do you think of this book? And how do you think of that book? And I told the students in Colorado, I said, actually, I was just skiing, and I thought about another book about a moose with my daughter Morgan's name. So yeah, so that's hopefully in the works. And then I also want to do a holiday book as well for students about Maggie, like the younger days, if you will.
Super. I have a moose story myself, Rae. I was up with a bunch of friends for a weekend kayaking down whitewater rivers in Maine, very rural Maine, and the whitewater trip was going to be on Sunday. So Saturday, I took my bike and I just went on this long 25, 30-mile bike ride by myself through the mountains of Maine. And it was beautiful. There's just trees and lakes. And at one point, riding my bike down the road, and I hear a noise to my right, and I look over, and here's a moose running alongside me.
Oh.
And it was magnificent, terrifying, because the moose was about 1,000 pounds, and I was just hoping I didn't do it. But the moose just ran alongside me for about a quarter of a mile, and then back into the woods. And I think I changed my pants after that. I'm not sure.
I wouldn't doubt it. And you know what? When last year, that brings up something funny. I was in Alaska for an author tour. And I visited a couple schools out in Kenai, Alaska, which is gorgeous. And I was also in Anchorage. So I land, and this gentleman told me, he said, you don't look like you're from around here. I said, because everyone was kind of in Carhartts, and they said they were doing some work in construction and all that kind of stuff. And I said, no, and I didn't realize I was in, a dress and stuff. And I said, no, I'm actually going to go see a school. I'm from Florida. And he said, well, when you go outside, especially in the dark, you have to look for moose. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He said, seriously. He's like, if you go out to your car right now, it's dark. If you turn around, they can be right behind you. And I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do? And he said, just, you have to ignore and get your car. Just don't try to go up to them or whatever. I said, okay. So I was in the middle of an author session. I get to the school, and then there was the principal or whoever gets on the PA system and says, students, we're not going to have recess this afternoon. There are moose and geese in the parking lot. And I told the kids, I said, that is not something you ever hear in Florida. So it's very interesting when you travel and things that you have to be aware of that you're not familiar with. So anyway.
Now, as a resident of Central Florida, have you ever warned your guests or visitors to the area that somebody told me one time, they said, how can you tell if there's an alligator in a body of water? And I said, I don't know. And he said, if the water is wet, there's an alligator.
Yes, I worry sometimes people will come down and I'm like, look, if you have a bathtub, you could turn around and be like, oh my gosh, there's an alligator in it. Any body of water. I have been around Disney area, and I've heard people say, no, there's no alligators in there. That's lake water. And then I heard this one person say, no, you don't understand. Like they're everywhere. They're lake water, salt water, brackish water. So no, we're very, very careful down here. None of us that I know of swim in the lakes around here. It's pretty scary. If they do overheads with helicopters, you can see the alligators, and if there is water, you have to be careful for sure.
Yeah. Well, maybe you can start an alligator series.
That's a good idea. Allie the alligator? I don't know. I have to think of something. I always have the A. I have to match something with Morgan the Moose, and I don't know. Something like that. That's a good idea.
I love alliteration. Hey, you know what would be a good idea is if we tell everybody where they can go to find out more about Love Maggie and the other books in the series.
Oh, yes, that would be fantastic. And author visits as well. If anybody has, a school that they'd like me to visit, you can just visit on the website. It's www.lovemaggieBook.com. It gives all information about all the books in the series, and then also they're available on Amazon, bookstores, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I would love for your kids to read it.
We had a great time speaking to the author of Love Maggie. It's part of the Maggie series of chapter books from our guest, Rae Marsh. Hey, Rae, thanks for hanging out with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I had a great time. Thank you so much.
Are you looking for a creative way to bond with your kids? Let me tell you all about Drawing with Your Kids, the ultimate destination for artistic adventures. Join us as we dive into the wonderful world of children's books with renowned illustrators guiding you step by step. From beloved characters to whimsical scenes, unleash your imagination and create cherished memories together. Whether you're a seasoned artist or just picking up a pencil, there's something for everyone at Drawing with Your Kids. Please visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com, and click on the Drawing with Your Kids link at the top of the page and let the creativity flow. Drawing with Your Kids, where every stroke brings stories to life.
Do you want to save money on your next flight? Then pick up the phone and call. That's right, call. Because the best prices are not online. They're with SmartFares. See, SmartFares has special deals with the airlines. When they have unsold seats, they use SmartFares to fill them. So you get airline tickets at crazy low prices. They have access to great prices and discounts at over 500 different airlines. Plus 300,000 hotels and rental car companies. Their prices are too low to publish online. With the extra money you'll save, you can book another trip or treat yourself to dinner or shopping. So stop searching all of those travel sites to find the lowest price on your next flight. Let one of our SmartFares expert travel agents find the best price for you. Call SmartFares today and get ready to see the world with a fat wallet.
855-325-1823. 855-325-1823. That's 855-325-1823.
My friends, if you have ever thought about owning a business that's fun, rewarding, and makes a valuable contribution to kids' education, well, Brooklyn Robot Foundry is calling your name. I recently met Jenny Young. She's the founder of Brooklyn Robot Foundry. And let me tell you, she is incredible. Her passion for getting kids excited about STEAM, that's STEM plus art, it's contagious. I'm telling you. This isn't your average kids program. Brooklyn Robot Foundry is all about hands-on, screen-free STEAM fun. These kids get to build a different robot each class and take it home with them afterwards. Kids love it. Parents are raving about it. And now you can own a franchise and bring this incredible experience to families in your community. Now, this isn't your typical franchise. Brooklyn Robot Foundry is a mobile, flexible business with a deep curriculum that's making a real impact in schools and communities around the country. Franchise owners get a proven curriculum, full training, and support from a passionate team. So what are you waiting for? Please visit bit.ly/RobotJed. That's bit.ly/RobotJed. And let them know you heard about it on Reading with Your Kids. Join us right now from beautiful Rutland in the Green Mountain State of Vermont. Our guest is here today to celebrate his brand new children's book. It's called The Day the Children Saved the World. Please welcome to the show, Phil Hall. Hey, Phil, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing well, Jed. How are you?
Delighted to be speaking with you. Vermont is a wonderful state. I've spent lots and lots of time there visiting many, many schools, and so I'm excited to connect with an administrator in the great Green Mountain State of Vermont.
Yeah, thank you. We think it's pretty nice here.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And you have a little bit of everything there. You know, there are a couple of bigger cities. And then you got Champy, the monster in Lake Champlain.
Yes, we have Champ.
Yes.
Yeah, we were actually, we took a 6th grade group up to Burlington for their class trip last week, and we were out there looking for Champ. But it was really hard to see. It was pretty smoggy, you know, all the wildfires up in Canada.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we did not find Champ, but we gave it a pretty good shot.
Well, I visited Scotland last fall, and I saw Nessie, the Loch Ness monster.
Did you?
I have a picture of it. Yes. Some people say that it's a decal on the window of the boat I was on, but I deny that entirely.
No, couldn't be.
So let's talk about The Day the Children Saved the World.
Yeah.
What's the book all about?
The book's all about, you know, a term, what I like to call pro-social behavior. It's about, you know, the impact that children can have by doing the right thing. You know, our hope with writing the book and writing it the way we wrote it was to get this idea into young people's minds that they're incredibly powerful and they have the ability to make a big impact, even though they may be small and they may be young. And the way they can make that impact is in the way they interact with all of the people around them. So that's really the premise.
It really is true. One of the things, folks who listen to the show know that I spent 35 years traveling the country doing educational magic shows, and the theme that most schools wanted me to address was a theme of bullying. And one of the things I came to really understand and appreciate is that if we want to build a bully-free school, the way to do it is not so much getting kids to chant and shout, I won't be a bully or any of that stuff. It's to get the kids in the middle, the kids who witness people being disrespectful and hurtful to each other, to stand up and say something. And sometimes just standing up and saying something it stops things and makes a huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, the hope for the message of this book is that we could even take it a step farther. Mm-hmm. You know, in education, and a lot of my experience in education has been in that sort of behavior realm, if you will. That's kind of been my calling card for the last 10 years. We talk a lot about replacement behaviors. So, we see a behavior that's unexpected or, that's undesired. And I think, we really understand the importance of naming the behavior that we want that young person to, replace that unexpected behavior with. So what do we want them to do, right? Not just what don't we want them to do. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, being an upstander, as you were talking about, is a great example of pro-social behavior. But the other thing is, what about for that young person, who's doing the bullying, if you will? Mm-hmm. What do we want them to do instead? Mm-hmm. And there's 26 examples in my book, one for each letter of the alphabet, of things that they could do, right, instead of bullying. So yeah, I think the idea of pro-social behavior is a huge idea, really, when you get into it. But if we boil it down and try to make it simple, which we've done in this book, 26 little simple examples of what pro-social behavior is and what it looks like. Hopefully, young people will understand that this is what we want from you. This is what the world wants from you. And what a beautiful place the world could be if we all, took this idea of how do my actions impact others, mm-hmm. and really put that kind of top of mind all the time. Something I said to a classroom that I was reading my book to was, I asked them to close their eyes and just imagine their classroom if everyone was always trying to find a way to help someone else, mm-hmm. And how incredible that could feel if that was what happened every single day. How would you feel walking into that classroom, knowing that, your job was to help everybody else, but also that everybody else was going to be helping you. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of the picture we're trying to paint, if you will, is, hey, it's a lot like voting or littering, or the way our carbon footprint. If we think about one singular person doing these things, then the impact feels really low, right? Well, my vote doesn't matter, or my emissions don't matter, or whatever it is. Sure, one person, maybe the impact is minimal, but if we can get everybody doing it, right, then we're onto something.
Yeah. I love empowering kids with the idea that what they do matters. And so I think the idea of you getting kids to think about, how my actions affect others, I think is really, really important. But also I think it's really empowering too.
Yeah, that was the hope, right? And, that's where the title and sort of everything came from was, hey, save the world we're talking about power, right? It takes power to do something like save the world, right? And we've got a little bit of a superhero theme going on there, and that's partially for engagement. That's partially to try to plant the seed in a young person's mind that pro-social behavior could be a cool thing. Mm-hmm. That's an issue we have right now, sort of as a society, with certain pockets of young people. This is very typical for middle school age, which is the age I was actually working with when I wrote my first draft. Mm-hmm. That, cool and treating people well are opposite ideas. And that's, I think we all sort of understand that, everybody kind of hits a point in their development where maybe they feel that way, right? Like, mm-hmm. they're seeing these people not treat other people well, but yet, those who aren't treating others well are considered cool or whatever else, or popular or whatever else. And, it's like, yeah, but that's a very, very temporary thing. And, you know, the problem is a lack of connection. And a lot of problems that we see in young people, all these behaviors we would consider risky behaviors. And bullying is actually one of those, but whether it's that or nicotine use, drinking or drug use, self-harm, all of these risky behaviors we see from young people, they all, you know, we sort of are aware that those all come back to a lack of connection. And so this book is about doing the right thing, but it's also trying to teach young people, how do we connect with each other? Because I think a lot of times, you know, what we learn from our peers as young people is if I want to connect with if I'm person A and I want to connect with person B, then I should put down person C, right? But in reality, if you want to connect with person B, be nice to person B, you know, do something nice for person B, be polite to person B. You know, and so I think we think about students, you know, who maybe don't have a connection with anyone, and we know that's a problem, right? When we survey students, we ask them that. Do you have a trusted adult? You know, do you have a peer who you feel connected with? We're trying to tease that out of these young people because we know it's such a problem if they don't. But then sometimes we're looking at that problem, you know, as, okay, this student isn't feeling connected. We need to do something for them. Well, what can they do for themselves?
Yeah.
Right. And something they can do for them. It sounds so simple. I almost feel stupid saying it out loud, but you know, you want to connect with people, be nice to them, right? Like do nice things for them. And that's a great way to connect with people. Yeah. And then maybe the two of you can go do something nice for somebody else.
Right.
So just trying to kind of to flip that mindset a little bit.
Yeah. It's interesting you're talking about kids and their lack of connection. You mentioned that you did a survey and asking kids, do you have a trusted adult? And I'm just really curious, what percentage of kids said they didn't have a trusted adult? Do you remember?
Yeah, I'm fortunate, and I've done those. I've asked that question in a lot of different schools and a lot of different settings, and I think I'm fortunate. You know, again, we talked a little bit about Vermont. My entire educational career has been in Vermont, and in Vermont, what we do have is we have small schools.
Right.
And so, you know, I'm fortunate that most of the time when I'm reviewing those answers, they're, you know, overall pretty positive.
Okay.
You know, the largest school I've ever worked in was about 350 students. But most of my career I've been in schools with, you know, just over 100. And in those schools, we're usually seeing a no to those types of questions with one or two kids.
Okay.
You know, in a school of 350, I'm certain, and that was a high school, so I'm certain it was more. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but you know, generally it is a really low percentage. But you know, that's certainly something we really pay attention to.
Right.
Is, you know, do we have students who are feeling disconnected? Because we know if we do, you know, that's an issue for their development, but also an issue for them, you know, moving forward in the choices they might make. You know, someone said to me one time, you know, you as a young person, you probably were asked or offered to do something you knew you shouldn't do, and you probably thought about the person who told you you shouldn't do that, and you cared about that person enough, right, to not do whatever you knew would disappoint them. And then, well, what if you know, a young person doesn't have that, doesn't have a person who they think of in a moment like that? You know, that's just one more factor where they might make the wrong call there.
Yeah, yeah. It's ironic, I think, that we're living in this time where we have all these tools. I mean, you and I, you're in Rutland, Vermont. I'm in Boston. We're looking into each other's space. And so we have all these tools that can connect us, but people, and kids especially, are feeling more disconnected than ever.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was such a concern of mine during the pandemic, which is when I wrote the first draft of this this book, because I was very much thinking, man, we already have such a problem, right now with young people and communication skills, especially out loud and in person. We're very good at texting and messaging and all those different forms of communication, using our phones or our computers. We already have an issue connecting with people in person. And, now we're all being sent home for, at this point in time, it was who knows how long. And are those connection issues, going to, become more severe? It's interesting. You mentioned the fact that technology helps us connect, and it definitely does. We're doing it right now. But I do think, for young folks who maybe don't have the life experience or just, aren't getting the correct guidance, sometimes, technology is actually connection's biggest enemy, because it can be, a place of escape. I can just go get lost in my phone, and, then it can lead to some isolation. So,
right.
Yeah.
Well, I think, the Day the Children Save the World is a great opportunity to start some great conversations within a family. What are some of the conversations you think families might be able to have as they read this book together?
Yeah, there's a lot of different conversations. I think the coolest thing to do, something I've done with my own children, when we first got our e-copy of the book and started reading it, and then, even when the author's copy started coming before the published date, is just looking at the different examples and asking, the children, so how could that save the world? Right. So we've got 26 different examples of pro-social behavior, and some of them I think are really clear cut and obvious, and some of them require a little bit of thinking, as to, like how is that making the world a better place? For example, it's 26 examples, right? Because it's each letter of the alphabet. So every character, follows the alphabet. And my eldest son's name is Jackson. So on the J page, the Jackson page, it says, Jackson saved the world today just by being quiet for a little while. And that's been, with my own children and, at school talking to students, that's been sort of the biggest conversation starter, because it is maybe quite possibly the least obvious example in the entire book. How can we make the world a better place just by being quiet for a little while? But the cool thing about that is we get to talk about all of the wonderful things that can happen, right, when we're all just quiet for a little while. Maybe it gives us space for some reflection, right? Maybe there's someone else who needs a break from some noise. That's certainly me a lot of the time, Jed, here in my house, Man, my day could almost always be saved by someone just being quiet for a little while. But no, I think, just looking at the different characters and what they're doing, and just asking the question, how does that make the world a better place? Or how does that save the world? That leads to some great conversations. And the cool thing is it can lead to 26 different conversations, because it's 26 different examples. But yeah, and there's other things, throughout the book. Sometimes, some of the pages, it's like, again, really obvious, how the illustration matches, the text on that page. And sometimes it's a little bit less obvious. So there's some pages where you have to figure out who the character is. The very last character in the book, it just says she saved the world by showing her affection. And, young people have to look at that page a little bit and say, who here is showing affection and how are they showing it? Oh, that must be the character. So, there's a little bit of digging, a little bit of conversation with those things, but that's really the conversations that we hope it starts is, we go from a place of seeing these 26 different examples of young people, right, doing things that are making the world a better place. And then the big conversation is, okay, so what can I do? Do I feel like there's anything in this book I could do? Certainly, for any child in the world, they should be able to do one or two things that are in that book. For most children, it would be all 26, right? But what else can I do? And so something really cool happened for me was I shared my book with the first grade classroom at my school, and they wrote me a book that is called First Grade Can Save the World Today. Awesome. And so each student drew an illustration and then wrote one line about how they, have or can make the world a better place. So that's that. When first grade gave me that book, I was like, okay, this is the type of thing, where this is the type of, it was an actual product, but it was a product that came from a conversation. And it's like, yeah, these are the conversations we're trying to ignite here. Awesome. So that was really cool.
Yeah, that is very cool. Hey, Phil, where can we go to find out more about the day the children saved the world and find out more about you?
Yeah, so I am on Blue Balloon Books is the guided publishing company that I worked with. So on blueballoonbooks.com, you can find me there. And I have an author page, and you can order books and learn more about the books there. I'm also on Amazon, so I have an Amazon author page, which looks pretty similar to the Blue Balloon page. You can find out more about me and the book on Amazon as well. We're on Barnes & Noble.
Great.
And, anywhere where you would order books, you can find the book. And then, as far as about me, I would say Blue Balloon and then also Amazon.
Awesome. We have a great time speaking to the author of The Day the Children Saved the World. Our guest has been Phil Hall. Hey, Phil, thanks so much for being on Reading with Your Kids.
Thank you, Jed. It was a pleasure.
That's a wrap on this episode of Reading with Your Kids. Want more content? Head on over to readingwithyourkids.com. You'll find amazing book reviews, author interviews, our certified great read wall of fame, and more. If you love this episode, please share it with somebody you care about. Leave a 5-star review and be sure to follow or subscribe wherever you find your favorite shows. Want to thank today's guest, Rae Marsh. Please be sure to check out Love Maggie. Also want to thank Phil Hall. Please be sure to check out The Day the Children Saved the World. I want to thank my incredible team, Fatima Khan, Chris Doherty, Rory Grady, Elle Glassman, Dante Greco. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we want to thank you. You are the real heroes, because every time you read with your kids, you're spreading love, you're spreading learning and kindness all over the world. I'll see you for the next episode of Reading with Your Kids.